Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to episode 61 of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by ImpactFuel.org. My name is Josh Weesey. I'm your host, and I'm here to guide you through the crazy complexities of motorsports sponsorship. To help me with that today, I have our featured guest on here, Christine GZ of Dynamic Racing. It was really cool the way we were able to record this show. She was in Barcelona, Spain, where she lives currently. I was in Kalamazoo, Michigan. It was a 6-hour time difference, but overall, really cool to have that experience. Now, before I get into the structure and the interview, I have a few things to cover with you. First off, I'd love to get your feedback, so please head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. And actually, I've been reading the reviews on here, and I got this 5-star rating to read now. It's from To Mafia. Definitely good info on here. It's refreshing to hear from riders who share their sponsorship experience as well as companies who do the sponsoring. Good and interesting perspectives to learn from, so I appreciate them for leaving that rating and review. Now, I would also appreciate if you went on and subscribed. That way you didn't miss any of our upcoming guests. Now, next up, we have Luke Lester of Dirt Tracks, Snow Tracks, and Super Tracks. And it is such a good episode. I can't wait to release it. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. To get some insider access to the upcoming guests, check out the Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook. It is a group, so you have to request to join. But go ahead and do that, and I will be reviewing those requests. This episode is brought to you by 4 awesome companies. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology products. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship. Bold Racing and Suspension, they're a family race team and custom suspension experts. Armor Coat, they have products that make your cleanup easier. I also want to give a quick shout out to some of our other project sponsors, including MBRP, HMK, Studboy Traction, and One Stop Performance. Now, the structure of this podcast is set up like a race. We will begin with the qualifier, which is a basic intro. In Heat 1, we'll discuss Christine's background. In Heat 2, we'll discuss sponsorship tactics and strategies. In the main event, we'll cover mindset, and then we'll end at the finish line where we'll get some closing comments and some contact information for Christine. Without further ado, let's get this thing going. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. Today, I'm joined by our featured guest, Christine GZ of Dynamic Racing. So, Christine, if you would go ahead and kind of fill in the gaps from that intro and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, hi, everyone. My name is Christine. I'm 24. I'm Italian, and I was a rally driver until I met you guys over here, and I kind of swapped to off-road. It's kind of confusing right now, but yeah, I'm currently racing for Dynamic Racing in the U.S.
That's incredible.
That's it, pretty much.
Where are you at now? I feel like it's important for the audience to know how we're doing this episode.
Right now I'm in Barcelona.
That's so cool. And I'm in Michigan, which is almost as cool as Barcelona.
It's freezing here. It's not that great.
Yeah. That's cool, though. You know what? For people listening, you know, there's a 6-hour time difference in this call, and we were able to connect, though, and it's really cool. And it's also, I'm super intrigued as to how you ever made the transition from Italian rally to, you know, American UTV desert racing. That we're gonna have to dig pretty deep into that. So that's actually what we're gonna start with probably in Heat 1 is, you know, your background and your story. So, you know, what I'd like to know, probably going way back, when did you first get into the motorsports industry?
Okay, that's a long story. I hope you guys don't fall asleep.
Oh, we've got some time.
Okay, so actually, I mean, I'm Italian, but I was born in India, and I'm currently living in Spain. And I mean, everything started like it kind of happened. I was always like super passionate about cars and like had little, how do you call it, like mock-ups of like Subarus everywhere.
Yes.
And like actually like, I don't know, like friends of my parents, when they came home and maybe they didn't know me, or they would be like, oh, you have a son. That is so cool. You know, and my mom would be like, oh God. But yeah, everything started like this. I just loved cars. I didn't know what it was. I just had this crazy obsession. And then I remember I was having dinner at home, and suddenly I just hear like, whoa. I'm like, what's that? So I literally just leave everything. I had no shoes, nothing. I just started running outside, and I sit on the wall like, what? And I just see this like yellow thing like speeding through, and you know, it just was. I was so curious to know what that was. So I started because I knew that this person passed by every day around the same time. So I just, decided to get out every day at 5 and like sit there with my dog and just wait for this guy to come back. And this was going on for like 2 weeks until one day I'm like, no, I need to get on that thing. So I just like went in the middle of the road and said, I mean, it's not going to run over me, right? So eventually he's going to stop. And that's what happened. So this guy stopped and like started shouting at me like, what are you doing?
Oh,
and I was like, I want to get on the car. And the guy was like, what? Like he didn't understand, what was going on. So basically I threw out of the car the co-driver of this guy and I just sat in. And then, I mean, I'm super hyperactive, right? So I was like asking him a question like, what car is this? And what do you do? And what is it? Because I had no idea. I just I just sat inside and it was so weird because obviously a race car, everything was like, there was nothing inside. So I'm like, and where's the seats and where's this? And this guy was just looking at me like, what's this girl doing in my car and asking me questions all the time. So that's pretty much it. I don't know, since, he just went like down the hill and did a 360 with a handbrake and that's it. I was done. I was completely in love with this. And so I gave him my number and I'm like, please tell me where you have a car and I will come and like watch it. And the guy was like, he didn't even answer me, he just kept like going, yes, no. So it was really funny. But then I started going at his garage and just like sitting there and watching him work on the car. And then eventually he would be like, okay, now you change the tire. And I was like, yay, and I had no idea where to start from. I would just get all the stuff and like he would look at me like, oh my God, we need to start from really basics here. And yeah, so this was my neighbor. He had a Corolla, a 92.
Okay.
And I started working in this garage. And then after that, I decided I wanted to build my own car.
Yeah.
So I bought this chassis of a Golf MK2.
Okay.
From 1980, very old one.
Yeah.
And for 200 euros, I still remember. And I was working in the bar at that time, so I had no money, right? So it was
right.
really, really little. And he gave me this piece of land, and I could put the car there and work on it. The problem is that at that time, like my mom had no idea what, she knew that I loved cars, but she's very different from me and she's very posh, so she wasn't, I didn't know how to tell her this. So I just thought, well, I'll just don't say it, it's not like I'm lying, I'm just omitting. and then obviously, after day and day that I come home, I was like tired and full of dirt. And she was like, Christina, we need to talk. So what's going on with you? Like, where are you going all this mornings and afternoons? And I was so nervous. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to tell her now? So I just the first thing that came into mind was I signed up with a beach volleyball team.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
and she was so excited. Like, oh my God, you're in a team. This is great. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? So I just thought, just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And this went on for a few months.
Okay.
Until she decided it was a great idea to go and pick me up at volleyball.
Yeah.
And of course the trainer was trying to follow this lady, asking him to find this blonde girl called Christine. And he was like, I'm sorry, I've never seen this girl in my life. And she was like, no, you don't understand. She plays here in the team. And he was like, no, I'm sorry. So when I arrived home, she almost killed me.
Oh no, that's pretty funny. Yeah. I mean, that whole thing, it's like you're doing something wrong, right? I mean, you're out being a pretty productive person, right? Learning how to build cars and race cars, and
that's what she maybe thought I was into drugs or something.
Yeah, so, exactly.
So when I told her, I'm like, Mom, I'm just working in a garage. She was like, what do you mean by garage? What is a garage? It was like, it's a long story.
Oh, that is funny. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you look at today's world, I think it's becoming more and more acceptable for young girls to just naturally take that route. And, we talked about this a little bit in the pre-interview about how one of the purposes of this show is to just give, young girls an example of strong female athletes who have decided to take on motorsports and just show them it's okay. It's actually pretty cool to do that.
Eventually we'll work out.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a good example, right? Where men in the industry, they don't necessarily have this challenge to overcome, right? Where their family might just think, oh, well, that's normal. They're going and working on a car.
Oh, yeah.
That's acceptable. But even outside the U.S., right? There's still some challenges there around. Is this even the right thing for a girl to do? I don't know. Maybe they should be playing volleyball somewhere. So I'm glad that I'm glad you broke the rules there for a little bit, and you're able to set some really good examples for the rest of us.
Yay.
Except, hey, everybody who's listening right now, don't lie to your parents. This worked out well. Christine did it the right way. I'm sure there's a reason for all that stuff, but don't lie to your parents. But good. So what happened next? So you got into this. You learned how to build cars. What was the next thing?
Okay, so well, I didn't even have a license at that time actually. So obviously, like, I mean, when I think it's really hard when you don't have like budget money and you don't have a name behind you, right? Because if you do, I mean, like if your dad is a famous driver or something, it's probably just really easy to get into it. But I think that in this way, like if you just love cars and you don't know what's going on, you have to know exactly like your objective, where you want to get to, because it is going to be hard. I mean, there's going to be lots of obstacles and, lots of things are going to go against you. And, many times you get up and you're like, what am I doing? I should just drop it, But I don't know. For me, it worked out. I mean, I had many things that happened. Like, obviously, I rolled my first road car after like a week of having it.
Oh.
So that didn't help. And then after that, I kind of went to Prague to study, to university. And then I realized, like, what am I doing here? Like, seriously, in Prague, in the middle of nowhere, studying economics? Is this really what I want? So I got a flight to Italy and I went to a rally school.
Oh, wow.
And obviously all this, my mom thought I was in uni.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a great idea either. And then when I was in this rally school, I remember the guy was looking at me like, so since when do you have a license? I'm like, yeah, 2 weeks. And he was like, okay, do I need to explain you where the pedals are?
Right.
It was like, I'm like, yeah, this is my thing. I love it. I was just like so into it. I didn't just care about anything else. And then eventually I finished my money, so I kind of had to go back home and tell my mom I never got to university, which, again, she killed me. And so I just, I made like a year off, let's say. I started working more on my car and kept working on the bar and stuff. And then my mom decided that she'd had enough of me. And so we kind of talked through it, and we decided that I should have gone to university. So I went to England, to Birmingham, to study economics, which lasted again 2 weeks. and then I was really, it was like the worst course in the world. Like, it was so boring.
Yeah.
And it was like, I just like all day, like drawing cars on my book. And then, it was like, there's something wrong with me, seriously. And then after that, I just changed course to motorsport engineering.
Oh, yes.
Which took a while, but yeah, it happened. And again, I told my parents after 2 months.
Yeah. You are a rule breaker. You regularly break the rules.
That was bad. That was very bad. But yeah, anyway, I mean, she got really mad again. She was like, I don't know what to do with you, really, and this and that. And after like a month of not talking to me, she called me and she was like, Christine, I'm really sorry. Oh. And I was like, ooh, what's going on here? And she was like, I understood that, well, after all the things that you've done, is actually that you really have a passion for this. So, so what we don't really have, how do you say, like, a connection with my dad. So,
yeah, yep.
So I think she felt like, she had to support me because she was the only one there for me.
Yeah. So
from there, she's been amazing. Like, she followed me to all the races in the Canary Islands. And it was great. I mean, she's been amazing, really.
So what do you think it was that changed that for her? I mean, that's a pretty big outlook shift. Do you know what it was? Did someone talk to her, or, I mean, how did she change her mind there?
I think it could have been someone that did help her. to change her mind. I don't know. I don't really want to know. I'm just happy that she did.
Yeah, very good.
And yeah, I mean, also, you know, when you do so much effort and you do obviously not bad things, but you go against the will of someone else, then it's like you really, it's because you really want something. And that's what I tried to explain her, but she didn't get it. And I was willing to go against her just because of cars. So, you know, I guess that was the thing that she just said, okay, if I don't like support her, she's just not going to talk to me. So
right. You know, it's really interesting listening to the story, because you hear this type of story a lot of times when someone chooses a different religion than what their family had, or, you know, or chooses a different country, or chooses, you know, I don't know, a different career path, I guess, ultimately. But, you know, in this case, it's like, I just want to play with cars. Like, I don't know if I even care how yet. I just know that I want to play with cars. So that is really cool. And I still want to know the story of how you ultimately made it over to the United States and started racing these off-road vehicles. I mean, it's just it's wild. It's wild.
Okay, well, there's much more between it. I'll summarize it. Okay.
Let's hear it. No, it's good. Get it all out.
No, so after in my second year of uni, I was still finishing off my car, which I bought then a Corolla. I sold my Golf and I bought a Corolla. And so I got this sponsor of flights, so I could go home every like 2 weeks or so. And Canary is not near. It's like 4 hours flight, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
And so I would, like, maybe the weekend I would work on the car, and then I would, you know, just prepare it for the next race or whatever. And it's been crazy hard, because obviously between me and my maths level, which is really bad, and studying engineering, which is kind of crazy, and then the coming home every weekend and working on the car, and then eventually racing, I would sleep nothing really.
Yeah.
But it was amazing, because then that year we won the championship, the Canarian. Front wheel drive overall, so it was amazing. And so after that, what happened is that I finished my degree, and this team from Barcelona like saw that we won the championship. So they kind of invited me to race one race in mainland Spain, which I did, and it went really bad. So I went back to my island, like, really, really sad. And I started, like, because I had a road Subaru, but it was atmospheric, so naturally aspirated. And I decided I wanted to build that one. So I put the car in the house, like literally in the house, because it was raining that day. And I started taking off the seats, and then my mom arrives and she was like, oh my God, not again. So she's like, you have more rally cars than road cars. What's this? So I started working on that. And then I opened my own mechanic workshop. It was really small. I mean, I asked for a loan and everything. So it was like really tiny. But then with my neighbor, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Which worked out super good, because after like 5 months, we were 6 working in there.
Yeah. Is that the same neighbor from earlier?
Yes.
Oh,
exactly.
Wow. This person was pretty influential in your life.
Yeah, it was huge. I think I owe him everything, really. He helped me so much, and it was, it's great.
Wow. It's a good thing that you ran out dangerously into the road when you were younger. Otherwise, it might be a whole different conversation. So.
Yeah, for sure. So after the workshop, what happened is I kept just working on the car, racing the Canarian Championship. I started trying to race a little bit my Subaru, but was like completely stock, you know, so it was just to train 4x4 and stuff. And then this team, which I raced with, like the first race that went bad, they called me again, and they said, we have an offer for you. It's 4 races of the Spanish Championship and 1 race of the World Championship.
Okay.
Full female team, like coordinators, engineers, everyone. So it's like a super new project. There's no ever like full female team in the world yet. And whatever, you know, it was really tempting. And then he said, but obviously, I mean, per race with this car, you would normally pay around like 14,000 euros. He was like, everything is free, like everything is done. You just have to pay the insurance and the inscription, which is around like 2,500 euros per race. which is not much,
Wow.
but for me was
Still.
a lot of money.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
a lot.
Because it's
a
like
lot.
5 races, and I had my workshop, and it's like just not gonna happen. But at that time, when they called me, I was just jumping of happiness, and I didn't know what to do. So he was like, "So, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, 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 yes."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Okay, that's great." And when I put down the phone, I'm like, "What did I just do? Did I say yes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's going on?" So like 1 week, I didn't know what to do with my life. I was like super lost, and then I had this thing, I had to decide if keep working and pay off my loan and race in the Canary Islands, or like try this crazy thing of going to mainland Spain in Barcelona and racing with this team I've never seen in my life,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about it for long, and then I sold my part of workshop. I sold my car. And I got a flight to Barcelona. And since then, I'm here.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. I mean, have you gone anywhere since then? Because that's where you're at today. So.
No, we raced the 4 races. And then I started working with Audi as like an instructor. Like, we did like driving courses and stuff on snow and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I could pay off like my living, let's say. But it was like really hard because obviously you were working all day, and then you came home. There was no training at all. There was the races, and it was 2,500 per race. So I really was in a bad situation, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But so we got to the World Championship. That was the last race of the project, and I didn't have the money for it.
Mm.
I was like zero, nada, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do now? So we made this, Kickstarter.
Really?
Yeah, we did this Kickstarter where basically I did this really crappy video that is still on YouTube, by the way, very embarrassing, where I basically explained that we really wanted to raise the World Championship. It's just a huge thing for us, and we really wanted to be there, and it was going to be huge, and so like whoever helped us would get their name, their signature on the car.
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy that in 1 week and a half, we got the 2,600 euros that we were exactly looking for.
Really?
Yeah. And
I am shocked.
We raced the WRC with the whole car full of like names on it.
Wow.
Which was crazy, but it was amazing.
That is honestly incredible. I've not heard an example like that before on the show. And for people listening in the U.S., I mean, 2,600 euro, that's like $3,000 almost.
Yeah.
So it's even more than it's just incredible. So you actually created a Kickstarter campaign, and you got enough people to give you money and just for a signature on the car. That is just wild.
It was incredible, and it was beautiful to see how people came to the race to just sign the car. It was just, I don't know, I can't even explain it, but it was so cool.
Whose idea was that? Who came up with that idea?
I had no idea where to look. Literally, I had, I was like, what am I going to do? So I don't know why this thing came to mind, and I just thought, let's try it. I tried so many things that right now I can just, go for one thing more.
Wow. I guarantee at least one person listening right now, they're opening up a Kickstarter account.
I hope so.
Because there's so many people that's in that same exact position. There's so many people who just don't quite have enough money to enter their first race or their last race or whatever it is. And that's pretty incredible. It's actually a similar story to one we just had on episode 58 with Jim Riley. And he was talking about how someone made him an offer to come race, and it was $2,500 US. And he did not have the money, but he said yes right away. And it's very similar to what you just said. But the way he went about it was he worked in the he was in, I think it was tequila business, or sorry, vodka business. He was with Ketel One Vodka. So he knew a little bit about marketing, and he immediately reached out to some other people to try to get a sponsorship put together. So in like 2-week time frame, he got someone to sponsor that entry fee, the $2,500 entry fee, which is kind of like this one, except for you went the social route and used Kickstarter, and which is absolutely mind blowing. So good stuff. Well, hey, that wasn't the end though, right? You got more to tell. I'll let you take back over in the story.
No, yeah, I mean that's it. Then the good thing was that we won the female gravel championship of Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought that obviously Peugeot for the next year they would renew the same project and we would like do the whole year like amazing and this and that. But they did renew, with the same amount of money. So meaning I would still have to put 2,500 per car, like per race.
Oh, yes.
Which it was really exhausting for me, and it was like I can't do this anymore. And it was like I came here to follow my dream, but this is like being too much for me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I just started, I don't know, this other team came to me and offered me like free racing at completely free. So I just had to work to basically pay my living and that's it. So I had to accept. I was really sad because obviously the project with the other team was amazing and I loved the other team, but it's like I couldn't do it. Yep. So I accepted and it didn't go really well, must admit. The team was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah.
So I was in that, moment where I was like, okay, this is the end, I might just go back and get back to the workshop and stop daydreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And so with my co-driver, with my new co-driver, with Louis, that she's racing right now with me in America also, we sat down to a table and we started thinking about what we could do. Like, we really didn't want to give up, but we did so much that it got to a point that we're like, we don't know what else to do. So I told her, let's take 1 month and we just like send emails to everyone, literally everyone we find like on the computer. And then we try to try to organize any events and like move a lot and see if we make some noise.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Paris to talk to a sponsor. We went to Italy to race. We did like lots of things that month.
Mm-hmm.
And then I still remember we were in Italy doing this security program event. And it was like 2 a.m., like super late. Mm-hmm. And my co-driver was watching Titanic.
Oh, okay.
And I was just like sitting there watching Titanic and like, are you seriously watching it? And after like all a second, I see my phone ringing and I'm like, who's calling me at 2 a.m.? And I just see America on and I'm like, America? Right. And this was my boss, Paul Krause, and we just started talking and like this and that and whatever, that they were searching for a driver for the team and whatever, and that they saw that I was also an engineer, and then that I did this and that I was into the rallying, and he was like, well, you could come and maybe test the car and then we could talk about it and see how it goes. Mm-hmm. And again I was like, yes, when am I coming? Mm-hmm. And he was like, I don't know, next week. I was like, yes, okay, I'm in, let's do it.
Oh wow.
And this is what happened, and since then I don't know, I'm there now.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, especially considering you said yes to, an overseas adventure, like that. That's pretty cool. It's brave, honestly. It's because it's scary to think about going outside of your comfort zone, which is exactly what you did.
And also that it was like completely different racing. I had no idea what I was going into. I started like looking online off-road racing and then seeing all these like huge monster cars jumping around. I was like, what are they doing over there? Like, these people are crazy. And literally when I arrived here, I remember we went for a test day the weekend with all the team. So I met everyone and everyone was so cool and like a big family, like such a great atmosphere. My boss was amazing. And I don't know, everything was just perfect. And then he was like, yeah, come on, just try the car. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I just like get in the car and I had no idea even how to start it, and I was like, what is this? Like, how can you have like this travel suspension on it? It was just, everything was so mad for me. And then they had this, wings of planes in the middle and they're like, yeah, just go and jump it. And I'm like, what do you mean jump it? And they're like, yeah, just go and have fun. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a dream, And so I started like, after 5 minutes, I rolled the car.
Oh.
and I'm like, we were upside down in the car, and my co-driver's like, Christine, we're never gonna get into this team now, right? And I'm like, I know, but this was so much fun.
Yeah.
And suddenly, like, everyone comes and takes us out, and we rolled back the car over, and everyone was like, wow, that's so cool. No one rolled it yet. I mean, cool. Come on, go on with the car. Have fun again. And I'm like, really? They're not angry?
Yeah.
Because in Europe, like, we had a test day, and we rolled a car, like, a few years ago. And, like, we had, like, how's it called? Like, art journalists and stuff. And, like, no one could see the car, no pictures. No one can know that. We had to put on Facebook and on our social media that everything was fine. The test was perfect. So it's so different, the mentality over there from what we do here. It's like crazy. I feel so much more near you guys though than the rallying, you know.
Yeah.
So, it was cool.
Oh,
that's
very
it.
cool. That's very cool. You know, I love that story because you took a lot of chances, right? You went against the social norms. You went against probably your own comfort zone a few times. So that's a good story. And also, a lot of the times you shared where you didn't know how to come up with the money. And I feel like probably 95 to maybe it's even 99% of the people listening are in that same situation. So that's good. You know, one thing that I wanted to share just from my experience with dynamic racing was just how I actually first found out about this team, and also how we initially got connected. So how I first found out about this team, I went to the Vegas to Reno race in 2017, and you were there, right?
Yeah.
So I saw you and your co-driver briefly. At the time, I was with in the staging area with Jim Beaver, and at that time, I didn't know that we'd one day be talking. And then I later on, I was with the pit crew, and we were following the different racers, and we actually ran into someone else from your team that was chasing at a Subway. So we were getting food at a Subway, and we talked for a little while, and, you know, they had stickers there, and they handed out stickers to, you know, some of the kids, and I think they even handed out some shirts at the, you know, at the Subway.
Yeah.
And that was pretty fun, and, you know, we exchanged some I think I gave them my card and things like that. So that was pretty cool. But then, you know, a while later, one of the sponsors for this show, Jimmy Moore of Bold Racing, he ended up coming in pitting for you, right? Out in Baja. And, you know, after that, he was able to connect us ultimately so that we could talk today. So I wanted to share that story because I think it's a small world ultimately that someone, you know, who's living in Barcelona and racing in the United States, that they can get connected through a desert race out in the middle of Nevada. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, super cool. So we owe Jimmy now, right?
We owe Jimmy, which he's probably listening right now, laughing like, "Oh, I knew you owed me money for something." And, no, it's good though. But one thing I want to do next is kind of take a brief minute to thank the sponsors for this podcast, and then we'll come back in to Heat 2 and talk about sponsorship tactics and strategies. I want you to think long and hard about this. Do you have the ability right now, if something were to break on the trail that's aluminum or radiator or AC line related, can you fix that on the spot? If the answer is no, I actually have a solution for you. It's SolderWeld's Alloy Sol Flux. This product gives you a long-term fix, not like JB Weld that's short-term, that's just going to get you back to the trailer. This one is going to allow you to easily repair an oil cooler, radiator, AC line, or any crack or hole in aluminum, and it's going to do it without the need to clean and decontaminate the surface. Very simple. All you need is MAP gas or propane torch to make this whole thing work. The Alloy Sol rods are actually capable of a 30,000 PSI fix, and essentially that makes them stronger than the parent metal, and they're built to last the lifetime of the part. Now, I don't want you to let a simple radiator leak leave you out of the race or broken down on the trail somewhere. I want you to have the ability to bring along some Alloy Sol aluminum alloy repair rod and flux from SolderWeld. To get yours now, you can use promo code SponsoredRider, that's one word, all lowercase, to get $20 off the aluminum repair rod and flux for the month of February 2018. Just go to solderweld.us and use promo code SponsoredRider. I don't know about you, but I absolutely can't stand cleaning the mud, filth, grime, goo, garbage off my machines after I go for a ride. It's just frustrating. It takes a lot of time. That's why I'm going to talk to you about Armor Coat next. Armor Coat is designed to help prevent mud, clay, ice, and other grime from sticking to your machine. It makes the cleanup quick and easy, it makes the machine actually look fantastic, and beyond that, it smells phenomenal. I don't know how to describe it, like bubble gum or something like that. It smells great. If you want to know more about Armor Coat, visit armorcoatproducts.com, and you will see their entire product line, all the offerings. Armor Coat is also working on some new stuff. They're soon going to release a solution made for coating the helmet and visor, and also one for wheels to help prevent mud buildup for high temp areas. So make your move now. Go to armorcoatproducts.com. Make a decision that's going to allow you to shorten the amount of time that you spend cleaning so that you can increase the amount of time that you spend riding and racing. I am constantly asking the guests of this podcast how they attract and retain sponsors. And on almost every single occasion, somebody gives an example of a resume. A rider or a racer resume is extremely important to your overall sponsorship pitch and proposal. And it's tough to do. I mean, it's not really the easiest thing. Anybody can go through and put together a resume, so don't get me wrong there, but it's really difficult to get something that's like unique and different and stands out, and that also is something that can be put across multiple platforms. Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk to you about next, is how topthepodium.com can actually help you build a race or rider resume that can be used on multiple platforms. I'm talking like website, PDF, something you can print off that's interactive, that looks fantastic. It looks absolutely professional. Well, that's because it's made by a professional. This is the type of thing that's going to set you apart from the crowd, and that's going to position you for a strong sponsorship proposal. So what I want you to do next is go to topthepodium.com, and if you have a question, there's a little chat icon that pops up on the side of the screen when you go to topthepodium.com, and you can go ahead and type your question right there. Jeff Vanestal, he is the owner of Top the Podium. He's going to be able to respond to you directly, so check it out. I hear it constantly from racers that a good suspension setup is absolutely critical for performance, and that's why I'm going to talk to you next about Bold Racing and suspension. Now, it's really critical to understand your suspension, and there's so many intricacies with the valving and the shims and all this crazy equipment that you need to actually, rebuild and properly set up your suspension, that it's really important, if you're ready for that next level of performance, to partner with an awesome suspension company. Now, Bold Racing is that company. They're not only specialists with their suspension setups, but they also partner with companies that produce amazing custom components. And on top of that, they're a family race team. They actually race themselves, so they really understand the type of beating that your vehicle and your shocks can take. So what I want you to do is give them a call and just chat with them. Talk to them about suspension. Their number is 702-506-5354. If you're not ready for a phone call, go ahead and shoot them an email, bold.racing@yahoo.com. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're in Heat 2. That is where we dive into the kind of the business end of this whole racing thing. And what I want to start with, Christine, is better understanding who some of your current sponsors and partners are.
Okay, so right now, obviously, I'm racing mainly in the US, so our sponsors are like the team sponsors. So apart from Dynamic Racing, of course, we have, KC Lights, which are helping us out really good. And then we are working with Maglock, which is our technical sponsor. So we're like currently testing and, hoping to build a long-lasting partnership.
Yeah.
And of course, we're working with Mad Media, which are doing all our videos and amazing content, thank God. And then I still have like my own sponsors, here from Spain, which kind of follow me all over. Yes. And then when I race back here in Europe, they always help me, like when we did the World Championship again this year. So it's like Naviera Armas and The Frog, which are pretty cool too.
So that's interesting that they stick with you even for the American races. Is it, do you still, use their product and market their product when you're in the United States?
Well, the Frog, for example, it's a really new product, so it's not something big or anything. It's like a complement for helmets and But yeah, I do, because over there you guys don't really have like regulations for it, so I can add stuff to the helmet without problems. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, because here you would have to like homologate it. It's a bit more complicated.
Interesting.
So yeah, so he definitely follows with all the years through. And then Navir Armas, he was my first sponsor.
Okay.
One of my first, and it obviously right now it's not like it's useful. It's a boat company, so it's not really useful for them to sponsor us here.
Yeah.
But always that I race back home, it's, you know, they're part of the family already. So.
Oh, that's good, because that's what I was wondering, is if, you know, from the United States market, are they really getting the same level of exposure? But probably in this case, it's no, but they want to remain connected with you, and that's good to see. That's good to see.
See, it's great to know that they're there still.
Definitely. And you mentioned Mad Media, so I have had both Matt Martelli and Josh Martelli on the show.
Yeah,
from
I saw
Mad Media.
it.
Yeah, so they were both phenomenal, but from a origins standpoint, both Matt and Josh grew up in where I live, which is Kalamazoo, Michigan. So we have that odd connection.
You didn't know each other before?
No.
Oh,
They moved
cool.
when they were very young, and they moved out to California, and I found out about that honestly during the interview, my first interview with Matt Martelli, and then from there we just kind of chat every now and then about the weather and different things around where I'm at, different things around Kalamazoo. So it's fun.
That's cool.
Fun. So you already mentioned a couple of attempts that you made to call sponsors and make contact, but can you share some more details around those? How did you know to reach out to certain people, or what are some of the ways that you actually connected?
Okay, well, as I already said, like when I started, I was really, really broke, so so I really didn't know like what to do, where to look, and when you start from nothing, anything is good, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, what should I do? And I just thought, well, I'll just knock on everyone's door. And that's what I did. It was really embarrassing because I was the only one that was racing with this Corolla that looked like a carnival car, It was like stickers everywhere. You couldn't even read the names of like the sponsors because they were so small, and like so many that it looked like a puzzle. But it worked out because, if you knock everyone of like 90 people, eventually maybe, I don't know, 40 say yes. And, it's 40 or 50 euros. At the beginning, I would accept anything. 50 euros, I was like, yeah, perfect. Small sticker for you, and then like 100 euros, I was like, ooh, now we're talking,
Right.
So it was good. I mean, I started like that, and then also there was this huge company of this that I said before, Navir Armas, which is the boats, the cruise, which they were we just have two companies that move around the islands. There's 7 islands in Canary, 7 like lost islands in Africa, basically, and so like moving around, you can go obviously in flight, but in boat is for our race car, it's perfect. So I thought, like the most like, how do you say, expensive thing is the moving between the islands, because you had a race on each island. And maybe like from Fuerteventura, where I was, to La Palma, it's like 4 days traveling on a boat.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, wow.
And you have to stop in different islands and everything. And so I had my tow truck, which, by the way, is another story. From 1986, Nissan Trade. And so I didn't know how to move around, because just the boat from my island to the other island was, I don't know, like 700 euros. So I was like, whoa, I'm never going to be able to race this way. So I thought, why don't I just go to them and ask them? But it was a huge company, and they weren't sponsoring anyone. So I was like, why people don't go and ask? Obviously, because probably, I don't know, maybe people didn't really, they didn't know who to contact, or they didn't know who to go through. So I just literally just went through the office and was like, hey, I would like to talk to the boss. And they were like, well, the boss is not here. And I'm like, well, is there a manager or someone? And, they would always be like, no, there's no one. What do you need to talk about? And I'm like, well, I have a proposal. And so I did that for a few days until eventually they put me in contact with this girl. and she was the manager.
Okay.
So I went to talk to her, and I'm like, hey, my name is Christine, and I just like literally like told her all my life, and just said, I really want to race, and I really want to get to the islands, but there's no way I can do it. So is there a way you can help me out? And she was so like excited about the project and excited about that I was the only girl racing in the championship, and and she was like, of course, we'll find a way. So I don't know. So in the end, she's been my hugest sponsor, and they paid me all the tickets to the various islands, and it was perfect. It was me, my tow truck, and and my race car. It was amazing.
I really like that story because it's outside of the motorsports industry. So another term for that is non-endemic. So endemic is inside the industry, non-endemic is outside the industry, and just to think of that, I think is very clever. So I hope people are listening right now and they're looking at some of their, whether it's travel expenses or miscellaneous expenses, and they're, they at least take the opportunity to try to. I'll give another example. This is going way back in time, but on episode 6, we spoke with Jason Schneider, and one of the things that he struggled with was paying all the hotel fees for every time he traveled to a different place, and he actually ended up contacting Holiday Inn, which is a major United States hotel chain, and he said, hey, is there an opportunity for us to work together? And they said yes. So he was able to get either extremely reduced rates or free, I don't remember now, but essentially, Holiday Inn became one of his sponsors, and he was in the same situation as you. He was having trouble paying for the rooms, or in your case, paying for the travel on the boats, and he just found a way to make it work. So I think that's really, really intriguing. Very cool. So today, let's say whether it's in the United States or in Europe, or anywhere in the world, I mean, how do you recommend that people make that first contact? Let's say, in your case, you did some door-to-door. You said earlier you made some phone calls. I mean, how would you recommend people do that today?
I think I always recommend the fact that you have to go in person. It's like, the thing is, people will, like, by email, they will read it, but how many people pass by before they get to someone that actually counts to read the email? Right. So, and I had like my really like good examples with this. So I would always just go in person, and if not, just keep calling. They don't answer. They don't pass you with someone. Whatever, call again. Until you get to talk to someone that actually knows and like tells you maybe no, there's no way we can like collaborate or yes.
Right.
But for sure, I mean, if you insist, you definitely get to talk to someone.
Definitely. And, that's a good point, too, around just if you can make it contact and face-to-face, that's fantastic. And a lot of people, I think, get stressed out by that. But there are actually a lot of opportunities. If you're a racer, then every time you go to a race, there's good opportunities there. And let's say you're a backcountry snowmobiler, there's a lot of snowmobilers that listen to this show. A great spot for that is in the United States, Heydays. It's a yearly event. There's a lot of sponsors there, and if you can't make that, there's usually a local snowmobile show that you can get to and make some face-to-face contact. So it's definitely a good idea. I know I've used it as part of the show. I've made contact with sponsors from trade shows. And I've also made contact with guests at trade shows. So it's definitely a good networking tool.
Yeah, I remember once I really wanted this. There was this company that just opened in Canaries that they were selling like Italian products, right? And I thought, hey, that's perfect. I'm Italian, they need to help me. And I kept like trying to talk to someone, and they would never like give me anyone, and it was like, oh, so annoying, so frustrating. So once I just called saying that I had problems with the products of the restaurant and whatever, from a restaurant that I knew that they were how's it saying, exporting? Well, like bringing products to.
Oh, yes.
And they were so like, obviously they care about their clients. So they're like, yeah, for sure, we will come and definitely like solve the problem and whatever. So I met them in front of the restaurant, and I just was like, okay, so this is the proposal I'm going to make you. And they were like puzzled, like we came here for something else. and you lied to us. And then, but eventually they kind of like, they got super interested about the project. And so also they were like, in the end, they were a big help my first year. But so there's always a way, like always some other path you can take to make it work.
Right. That's how I was just, your new name is Rule Breaker. You like to break the rules, and that's a good thing. So you mentioned earlier a time when things didn't go that great with a sponsor, where you left a good relationship to pursue at least a financially stable relationship.
Yeah.
Now, without getting into the names of the company or anything like that, could you dive into that a little deeper and just explain to us maybe how it felt when you had to leave that good relationship, go towards one that wasn't that great, and then probably ultimately end that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at the beginning you think about it, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm really well with this team, everything is going great, so why should I change? But obviously it gets to a point that it's not really your call, because it's like I really didn't have money to survive. So it got to a point that it's like, and I was working, and I was working a lot. So I had to choose this because I still really wanted to race. So that was my only way of racing and kind of living. Because I wasn't even, if you're living at home, maybe it's easier, but like living in a complete different city that you've never been to is like, you kind of have to do your own thing. So, but I think that everything teaches you, and you learn from everything. So I don't know, I would still go back and do the same thing probably, because eventually, I ended up in America, so it's amazing. But I have many like examples when things didn't really go well. I mean, I had one of my first sponsors was a hotel. But also I was really young. I was like, I don't remember, like 18 or something. So I used to go there and just, talk about it. And like, he would be like, yeah, perfect. I'll sponsor you. Come on, like whatever, 400 per race. And I was like really happy. And then, first two races they pay you. And then, you have to keep going back and be like, hey, my money, this and that. And then you just let it go for 2 times. And then eventually this thing just, the hotel closes and whatever. And
right.
So.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. Is if a sponsor you're working with closes or goes out of business, we haven't talked about that in the show before, but that's a real thing, right? That happens. I mean, how'd you deal with that at that time? You were 18 years old, and one of your sponsors, ends up eventually separating from you and then ultimately closes. I mean, how did you react to that?
Yeah, well, obviously it was devastating, because I was really relying on that money. And that's also another thing where you learn from that, you never have to rely on something unless you're like 120% sure that it's going to work. And in that case, I mean, I just had the word of this manager of the hotel, but, I didn't really either dig into the information of this new hotel or anything else. And I just thought, it's going to work out. And then but that's also the thing when you start and when you're young, that you think that everyone is nice and everyone is going to help you. And if they say yes, it's yes, because that's what I would do. Like if my word is a yes, it's because it's a yes. I'm not going to change my mind. But, everyone is different. So.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good example though. So I want to dig into social media next, and I want to understand a little bit more about your strategy. And I also, as part of that, want to understand a little bit about how you utilize the rest of your team. So I promised in the pre-interview that I would bring up this person, but Mateo, your marketing manager, and he's the one that helps coordinate this interview and things like that. So maybe if you could just dive into your social media strategy and how that works with your team.
Okay, well, when I started, obviously I didn't have Mateo always. I was just me, myself, and I. So, like, I started all in a joke way, because when I was working on the Golf, all my friends were, like, asking me continuously for, like, information about the car and, like, what was I doing and, like, what thing did I prepare with, everything, like, every detail. And I always, like, had to answer everyone and pictures and send the same thing to everyone. And I thought, God, there must be a way to just show everyone what I'm doing, So I thought, wait, what? Facebook, perfect. So I just created a page, and I started like putting pictures of the rally car, and and all my friends would just follow me there and like see what was going on. And then the page started growing, and I was like, wow, like there's people that I don't know that are like contacting me and asking me what I'm doing in the car. So that was pretty amazing for me. Of course that so when you start that, then Instagram and everything else that came later. So but I think that if like, at least for me, my strategy is for sure like just be yourself, show what you think, and just do what you normally do. And if people are interested, like mostly people are like car people, so they just follow because they feel the same way, or they think the same. So it's really amazing, and it's been a huge help in my career, of course, because if I didn't have the Facebook page, for sure the team from Spain wouldn't have seen that we won the championship and so on. So I try to use it as much as possible, because of course I know that it is a big help. But always try to be like yourself, and never try to act about being someone else, because it's useless anyway. It's not what you are. So.
Yeah, it's the social media world for me is super complicated. I'm assuming other people listening right now feel the same way. Social media is super complicated, and I feel like, especially now after the social media world is a little overpopulated, it's tough to get started. But the people who are doing really well, I think it's important to kind of understand and emulate what they're doing. So that's why I want to understand more about people who come on this show, what their strategy is. And I like what you said about be yourself. That's a common theme here, right? We talked a lot about this on episode 7 with Amy Hood, and you and her, honestly, if you go through social media, you share some of the similar ways of sharing information. She's very much herself. And I'm looking at I have your Instagram pulled up right now and just flipping through it. And you're on a swing set in one of the pictures, which had a lot of engagement. And then, right after that, there's a motorcycle in there that had a lot of engagement. And then I think there's your old car, is it Lola?
Yeah, Lola.
Lala in there, which is pretty cool. And that had actually tons of engagement. So you had twice the engagement on that one as even your current race car at Baja 1000. So that's really cool though, because I can see a little bit of your personality just from flipping through a couple of pictures.
That's cool. That's good.
So how does that work though when you have someone like Mateo helping you? I mean, how do you still convey who you are when you have a team around you that is, stepping in for you at certain times and making decisions for you?
Well, Mateo is great, so it's not like we have problems or anything. We're actually really, really good friends, and it's like another you, just with more like responsibility. I don't know. So like maybe sometimes I'm like too over like excited about something and like post like stuff that are useless, or that and so he would be like my conscience at the back, like, Christine, please, you should be more professional. And I was like, okay, but it's like, I don't know, I get super excited, when I don't know, maybe I see cars and I just like start like Insta stories about, I don't know, whatever the car has, or, oh my God, this is super like mine, and limited edition 2016, and it has this and that. And so it's cool, because it's like, he helps me a lot, and he just, I don't know, it's like another me. It's perfect. You just have to find the right people always, for sure. And I have also, another guy from Italy, Luca, that is helping me on Facebook. And he's like the first person that, when I started my Facebook, I don't know how we got in contact, and he helped me since that moment until now, that is still helping me. So it's great to have people like this around you, that believe in what you're doing, really, not that just are working because of money or whatever. So that's great.
That's really good. Yeah, and I don't know how people find others like that, but it's definitely something that I think as you progress in your racing career, you need to start thinking about those things. On episode 54 of this show, we had Walker Fowler on. He's a ATV racer for GNCC, and we talked about how he's trying to get to the next level and he's running out of personal time, and it's time for him to start building a bigger team. And I think that's probably a challenging part of the whole racing development, right? Is building a team out. So I probably need to actually have a show just focused on that at some point in the future, because I think it's pretty critical. As once you reach a threshold of what you can handle as an individual, you need to start expanding. So. Yeah. Perfect. Well, that was a lot of really good insights overall on the sponsorship world and, team building and, how you have some connections. But I have one more quick question that I want to cover around sponsorship, and then we'll dive into the main event. And it's around your resume. So for people who want to see your resume, it's actually available on your website, and which I'll have a link to that website on the Sponsored Rider Club podcast.com. But yeah, if you go to, actually probably just put in Google Christine GZ and find it as well. But I downloaded your resume and it is awesome.
Well, that was the old one, right? It's still on there, I think.
It has 2017 on it.
Yeah, for sure.
When I looked at it. And I know Mateo's name was at the end of that, so I'm assuming he had something to do with creating that. But it was really cool. It had, statistics specifically around how the cost of sponsoring you compares to the cost of other traditional marketing. And that is phenomenal. I don't know how a sponsor could look at that and say that it's not a good investment if they're, in your market. How could they say it's not a good investment compared to other traditional media? So that's pretty cool. How did you get to that point? I mean, how did you get to the point where you knew that was the right type of resume to have, and how did you get people to rally around it?
Well, I always do my own. So, this time I definitely had help. But if you start, like right now, that's the thing. Like with Mateo, you have help of like stuff that you have no idea that you can actually do. Because behind the Facebook, that if you pass it on to like a business profile, you have so much insights and information about it that you would never even think about. But that's the thing. Like right now, nowadays, if you go to a sponsor, he doesn't care. Like, oh, I won this, I did that. Like, unfortunately, it's like that. Like you have to just show him your social media and like your engagement, your impressions and all that stuff that I don't even, and you just show them all that and then they might be interested. And then from there you can go on and like, explain them what you've done and why you're here and all that and so on. But, I think it's very, very, very important that you show what you can give more than someone else. Because that's exactly what they want. That's the first thing they think when you come in is, why should I give the money to you instead of this person, So you have to demonstrate that you are more valuable. But to do that, you have to give some data, You can't just be like, yeah, I'm better, and that's it. So.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I often refer to a book on here called Motorsports Marketing and Sponsorship. It was written by Alex Stryler of Lucas Off-Road, and I keep telling people he doesn't sponsor this show or anything. I just really like the book, but he gives some examples in there about how to do what you did with your resume, and that's assigning basically a value to your program and the exposure that it offers. So I highly encourage people to take a look at that. Go to her website. You can go to the click on a tab called Sponsor, and at that point you can download the resume. So it's really cool. Well done. If people need help with resumes too, you're looking for someone to put that professional touch to it. We partner with topthepodium.com on this episode. So get a hold of Jeff Vanestal and he can help you put together a pretty cool resume like that. Oh, it's good stuff. I just had to bring up that resume because I was impressed, and I like that you could just download it from the website. I thought that was really cool.
That's what I think. In the end, like you have to just. I mean, who cares who reads it? It's like that's it anyway, right? So.
Yeah. Hey, actually, do you mind if I post that on our Facebook page?
Of course not.
Your resume. because I think that's good. I mean, oftentimes people will share their resumes, but it's always at their own accord. I've never shared somebody else's resume.
Sure, of course.
So yeah, I will. I'm gonna post that up, and for people listening, if you head over to Sponsored Rider Club on Facebook, it's a group. So if you're not already a member, you can request to join. But I'll post that in there, and people can.
I want to be a member.
Can see what you did. Oh, there you go. I tried to hit you on Facebook, but you're out of friend requests. You've got over 5,000 friends, so you're gonna have to cut out some of those other people.
Okay, I'll erase someone.
To make room, and then I can add you to the group, no problem. But well, good. Well, hey, I want to just go through a brief main event. We've already discussed mindset a little bit in this show, so I don't feel like the audience is going to miss out on this stuff. But I do want to understand probably just one thing in this case, and that's around your next step. I think direction is really critical in a sponsorship program. How do you know what's next for you?
I mean, right now for sure is to progress within my team and progress with my improve my driving skills in off-road, because I mean everything is so new for me that I just it's like if I'm starting again all over. So for example in Baja 1000 we were able to speak to Jesse Jones, and I went with him for a little ride, and in that little 10 minutes of ride, I just discovered so much. I was like, wow, why didn't I know this? So I think that for now, the objective is for sure just improving and go on with my learning. And for sure, I mean, dynamic racing we'll be doing score and BITD. So the aim is always podium. So we're going for it.
Yes. Yep.
And I mean, I just hope I can race with them for much more and grow as a team all together and just my aim long term for sure is Dakar, so I will try to convince them to get there, but right now I just want to focus on our year project.
Definitely. So Dakar, I mean, that's the biggest off-road race in the world, right? I don't think anything even comes close to that, even Baja 1000, right? Do you know how many days the Dakar race is? I know it's multiple days, but I'm not sure how many.
It was 20 something.
That's I can't even comprehend that. I really cannot.
It's crazy, but I mean, Baja, it's all in once, right? You just... Right. Dakar was first, 6th of January to the 20th of January, I think. So... Yes. So, yeah, it's a lot of days. But they have, a day of, let's say, stop where they just, take it easy. And then they start again the next day. So maybe they have 200 miles, 300, 400, whatever. But then they have, the night they stop and then so on. So I don't know how harder than the Baja 1000 can be. Then maybe Ironman or Baja 1000, but that's kind of mad. I mean, for me it was insane, and I didn't even do it all. So it was just, I wasn't even a person after when they were interviewing me. I was like, who are you? Where am I? But yeah.
I just was in the pit crew for the Vegas to Reno, which I think this race is 539 miles. Yeah. The last one was. I was just in the pit crew for 17 hours, and I forgot that I existed as a human as well. So, and I didn't have to really even do anything. I didn't even drive the pit car. I just rode in the passenger seat and made sure that the driver stayed awake. And, that was pretty interesting. But, no, that's good. That's good.
You have to join us in Baja this year.
Yes. Yeah, that's on my bucket list for sure of things that I would like to do at some point is make it to one of the Baja races. So that'd be awesome. But I'm a horrible pit person. I really am. I mean, I'm somewhat mechanically inclined, but I'm better at inspiring. So
okay, you can be with Mateo maybe and just write stuff.
Yes, him and I would get along really well, I think. Good. Well, that's perfect because I want people to hear examples of direction and what's next, and because ultimately that means that you have some goals laid out, and I think that's critical to success is having some goals. So, perfect. Well, at this point, we're kind of going to wrap things up, but I'm going to give you one more opportunity to give some advice. And that's basically a quick summary of what you think is the most important piece of advice from this conversation.
Oh my God. I hope there is something.
No pressure, but just the most important one. Everybody right now is just waiting to hear this next phrase.
Well, I mean, okay. I don't, as you know, I don't have that much experience. So with my little experience, I hope that, I can somehow help people that didn't have the strength to start, or like didn't have, how do you say, like the force to keep going, because I had that so many times,
Yeah.
And
yes.
This crazy tough motorsport world is not at all easy. So if I can somehow like make, find faith in themselves to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say the same thing, like never give up, because,
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way you're going to get there. And I lost friends, family, and lots of things because of motorsport. But if that's what you really want, I mean, with commitment, passion, determination, you will definitely make dreams come true. So
perfect. That was well said. That was almost like you had practiced that or something. But
just because everyone always asks me, and I'm like, many girls like come up. Maybe I had like some little, oh my God, so amazing. In the World Championship, I had this girl, she was like 6 years old, and she was like saying that she follows me, and she gets the phone of his dad and tries to text me on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And it was so crazy. And so her dad was like, oh my God, she keeps talking about you, keeps talking. And so she was asking, and also his dad was like, how do we get her into this world? Because, and I'm like, if that's what she really wants, she'll get there. But obviously, and
right.
If you support her, which is the best thing she could ever have, it's for sure going to be easier then.
Yeah. I feel like that's a game changer, is when someone younger, mentions to you that they're looking up to you, or they're, seeking you out for advice. That's a game changer. I know one of the recent reviews that was just left on iTunes for this show, it was someone, they put in there, they said, hey, I'm 14 years old and I'm using advice from these racers to, make a difference in the way
wow.
I race. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Maybe, maybe this is a good idea after all. Maybe some people are benefiting from this stuff. So.
Yeah, that's why I also I remember when I was back in Canaries, I used to do like lots of events, like
yes.
Draws, where you like lotteries thing where you could win like a day with us at the circuit and whatever. And I remember this kid that won. Well, obviously his dad won, so he brought his kid. And he was all day with us, so we showed him like so many things, and like, I gave him like a spin with the car, and this kid was like so amazed, and the father like kept calling me the next days to say thank you, and I think that this is also the help that you can give in your little way, because we don't have, I didn't have that much to give, but in your own way you can help others, and I think that then they can be, how do you say, like it's worth it, and they'll like, yes. I remember like Danny, for example, that is my neighbor that helped me with a Corolla and everything, so I guess.
Yeah, his moment of stopping to let you into the car back in the day, that changed your life for
sure. Yeah.
Well, perfect. What's the best way that people listening can connect with you?
Well, Instagram, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the best way. I'm always on there.
And your handle is at ChristineGZ, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's definitely a good place to go. Like I said, a lot of engagement on there. I know on your Facebook page too, which is also ChristineGZ. There's another way to link to your website there. So that was phenomenal. I really appreciate you taking time to chat. I love hearing your basically global experience and your ability to apply, honestly, the same concepts that, same sponsorship concepts that you would use in Spain or in Italy or in United States. That's really intriguing to hear that a lot of this is transferable even between different cultures and different countries. So I appreciate you taking the time to share that.
Well, thank you.
And at this point,
you're the one that is up late.
Oh yeah, this is great because I for people listening, I think we started recording this at like 4:30 a.m. Michigan time, 10:30 a.m. Barcelona time, and I'm always up this time, so it really didn't even change anything. But it is interesting. I'm curious because I record in my basement, and it's the soundproofing is okay, but my 2-year-old and 4-year-old kid are sleeping upstairs. My wife is sleeping upstairs. So I'm going to be curious if I walk up there and they're all awake, like, look,
angry at
why'd
you.
you wake me up? But yeah, hopefully that wasn't the case. But we'll find out here in about 5 more minutes. So, hey, at this point, I am going to leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast. Make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss upcoming guests and shows, specifically our next one. We have Luke Lester coming on of Dirt Tracks, Snow Tracks, and Super Tracks. So that is one you do not want to miss. Also, please head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. That would be phenomenal. It really helps me get feedback and also helps the show grow. If you have any questions or guest recommendations, go ahead and shoot me an email, podcast@impactfuel.org. A special thanks goes out to our sponsors, Armor Coat, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, and TopToPodium.com. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to MBRP, HMK USA, and Studboy Traction. Make sure that you are following us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.